So welcome back. We are now in grade 7, chapter 3, and this is the second lesson in chapter 3.1, so we're looking at 3.1b right now. And what we're looking at now is independent and dependent variables, and what that really means is when you're making a graph, you want to decide which one that you have control over, which variable or what concept you have control over, and what's the other concept that you're measuring that would change because of that first one. And there's two types of variables that we're looking at. One's called the independent variable and one's called the dependent variable. And what that means is independent means that it can be controlled. That means it works on its own. That means I can control how long I'm going to be measuring something, or I could control the actual categories that I'm going to be measuring. And the dependent variable or the dependent variable is the one that responds, the one that changes because of that first one that you're changing. So let's just review that quickly. So the independent variable is the variable that is being changed or controlled, and it's normally found on the x-axis. The other one is called the dependent variable, and that's the one that responds, or the one that changes because of the independent variable being changed. And this one's found on the y-axis. So a very easy example of this is I'm doing a survey of the types of hair color that's in our class, and I want to measure how many students have each type of hair color. Well, I can decide which hair colors I'm going to be measuring. I could choose blonde, or I could choose brown, I could choose black, I could even choose different variations of those colors as well. I could choose light brown or dark brown, and depending on those categories, then the numbers will change for my results. So the ones that I can change the hair color, because I decide which hair colors I'm going to be selecting. The thing that changes will be the number of students that have that hair color. So that's why we call that one the dependent. It depends on the hair color that I choose as the independent variable. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. Example 1, I'm collecting data about which class collected the most money for the Haiti relief efforts. So now pause the video and take a moment to think about which variable would be independent and what would be dependent. So after we've thought about it, we can see that the independent variable is what we can choose, and we actually have a choice of which classes we're going to be asking. We can ask the grade 3 class, we can ask the grade 12 class, we could even combine the classes and say maybe the intermediate classes, the grade 7 and 8 classes, how much they collect, or all of the high school classes. Because I decide which categories the classes are going to fall under, that's independent. So this is the actual classes will be the independent variable. The dependent variable is the thing that will change depending on the classes that I chose. So if I chose each individual class, well, then the amount of money collected will change for each class. If I decide to do it by division and say the intermediate division or the high school division, then that number will change the amount of money. Now, which type of graph would we use? Now, looking at what the different types of graph from the first video, we are comparing different types of classes. And because these are different categories, the best graph to use would be the bar graph. I could also use a pie chart if I wanted to convert it, or I could use a histogram as well, or even a pictograph. But in this case, because I'm comparing different categories or different classes, I'll choose the bar graph. Second example, I am now trying to see if there's a relationship between the amount of vitamin C taken per day and the lifespan of a human. So again, pause the video and see which would you think would be the independent and the dependent variables. Well, the independent variable would basically be the one that I have control over, and the one that I have control over is the amount of vitamin C that I take in that day. So I'll put that as the independent variable is the amount of vitamin C. Now, what changes because of that is the other variable that will respond, and what we predict will change because of that is the actual lifespan of the human. So we're trying to see if there's a relationship between if we change the amount of vitamin C and how long that person might live. And there's only one type of graph really that can show that kind of relationship to see if there's a relationship, and that would be the scatter plot. So the scatter plot basically plots both variables and see whether or not there to be a positive, a negative, or no correlation between the two variables. So again, let's as a quick review, independent means that I can freely choose what categories or what will be on that scale. So normally time tends to be an independent variable, and dependent is what changes because of that. So money or quantity might also be a possible variable. So hopefully you understand this lesson.